There once was a guy who thought being good would keep him safe. He was quick to forgive, gave too much, and stuck around too long in places that sucked the life out of him. He figured that if he was nice, the world would be nice back. But the world isn't a mirror. It's more like a battlefield. And on that battlefield, the good guy is the first to get hurt. I saw him slowly crumble. Not 'cause he was weak, but 'cause he kept believing that being empathetic could fix cruelty. That love could change betrayal. And that being patient could soften manipulation. He thought his good nature would heal others. But it just drew in the takers. The ones who saw his kindness as a chance. They took advantage, they lied, they drained him, and when he had nothing left, they called him too emotional and walked off without a second thought. Years later, I ran into him again. But he wasn't broken anymore. He was quiet, sharp, and unapologetically calculated. And he said something that completely changed how I thought. The world didn't change. I did. I stopped being an easy target. That sentence stuck with me 'cause it wasn't just his story. It was mine too. And it's probably yours as well. Right now, there are two versions of you. The first is kind, loyal, and always ready to forgive. The second is quiet, focused, and untouchable. The first one feels the need to explain everything. The second one doesn't have to. Machiavelli once said, "Men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceitful." He wasn't just being negative. He was being realistic. He knew that kindness without some control isn't a virtue. It's just an invitation to be taken advantage of. So before we go any further, understand this. The world isn't going to reward you for being soft. It's gonna test you. It's gonna study you. And if you don't toughen up, it's gonna break you. Take a deep breath. This is where you start to change. Not by becoming cruel, but by becoming really clear about things. First, let's talk about the illusion of goodness. You were taught that being good protects you. That if you give enough, forgive enough, and love without holding back, the universe will pay you back. But that belief is the first thing that takes down strong people. 'Cause in reality, the world doesn't reward purity. It rewards how things look. And appearances are controlled by the powerful. You see, people don't see what you're trying to do. They see what you actually do. You might give up everything for them, but they still see you as the one who gives in. And in a world based on being dominant and surviving, giving in looks like weakness. Even if you're doing it out of love. Machiavelli wrote, "It is not goodness that makes a man secure, but his ability to command." He understood something that people today don't want to admit. That being moral without a plan is just self-destruction disguised as being virtuous. Take a look around. The world praises being compassionate in public. But behind closed doors, it respects control. We admire saints, but we listen to the people who know when to stop forgiving. You call it being a good person. They call it being predictable. And predators are always looking for predictability. I've seen good men ruin themselves trying to fix people who liked being broken. They thought being patient was powerful. But being patient without good judgment is just a slow way to give up. They thought being loyal would make others stick around. But being loyal to people who don't appreciate it isn't noble. It's just naive. They mistook their pain for a purpose. And by doing that, they turned their own hearts into weapons against themselves. Here's the dark psychology behind it. The minute you make being kind your identity, you become easy to manipulate because anyone who can make you feel empathetic can control what you do. They don't have to threaten you. They just have to make you feel guilty. And guilt is the perfect leash. That's why Machiavelli told rulers to seem merciful, not to actually be merciful. He knew the difference between being good and being effective. To him, being virtuous wasn't a feeling. It was a strategy. He said, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. For all can see, but few can feel." Meaning, the world doesn't care how pure your heart is. It only cares how powerful you seem. The illusion of goodness is tempting 'cause it makes you feel like you're better than others. But people who think they're morally superior rarely have power. They might have good intentions, but they're often held back 'cause they think being good keeps them safe. It doesn't. It makes them stand out to those who take advantage of good intentions. There's nothing wrong with being kind. But being kind without control is like a currency that loses value every time you use it. People respect what they're afraid of losing. And if you're always kind, they stop being afraid of losing you. So ask yourself, are you really kind? Or are you just afraid of being disliked? 'Cause real kindness is selective. It takes wisdom. It knows when to shut the door. It knows when to disappear. It knows when to say enough. Machiavelli once said, "He who builds on the people builds on mud." Basically, don't rely on the goodness of the crowd cause people's morals change all the time. One day they praise you for being compassionate. The next they take advantage of it. So stop trying to please everyone. Stop trying to prove that you deserve to be recognized for being good. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Your forgiveness, or your peace. The world doesn't need another nice guy. It needs a guy who knows when to stop being one. Take a breath. This is where the illusion ends and strategy begins. Next, let's get into the psychology of weakness. Weakness doesn't start in your body. It starts in your mind the moment you start telling people who benefit from it about your pain. Most people aren't weak cause they don't have power. They're weak cause they give it away. They hand it over little by little to every opinion, every apology, every fake connection that keeps them stuck needing validation. You see, there's a hidden desire inside everyone. The desire to be understood. It's the most sensitive spot in even the toughest people. You tell yourself, if they just understood me, they wouldn't hurt me. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. He wrote, "Men will sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance." He meant people don't care about how you feel. They care about what they can get from you. Weakness lives in the space between what you hope people will do and what they actually do. It's the fantasy that people will be decent, that things will be fair, that loyalty will be returned. But to powerful people, expecting anything is a weakness cause whoever can let you down controls you. Think about it this way. When someone disrespects you and you try to explain yourself, you've already lost. When you beg to be noticed, you make being visible your prison. When you try to convince people to value you, you teach them that your value depends on whether they say you're valuable. That's how strong people become slaves. Not by being forced, but by needing others to make them feel okay, which they mistake for being virtuous. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Weakness is that unconscious need to be approved of. It's the hidden agreement you make when you trade being yourself for peace. And every time you ignore your instincts to please others, you make that agreement stronger. Machiavelli saw centuries ago that being moral without respecting yourself creates servants, not rulers. He warned that the person who trusts everyone is already being tricked cause trusting without testing isn't a virtue. It's just asking to be betrayed. You want to know why the world breaks good people? Cause good people don't think it can happen. They think the world works the same way their hearts do. It doesn't. It works based on fear, power, and perception. And when you don't understand that, you become a tool. That's why the psychology of weakness always starts with attachment. Attachment to image, attachment to fairness, attachment to needing to be liked. You can't control what you're attached to cause the moment you hold on to something, you give it power over how you feel. A Machiavellian mind doesn't have those attachments. It sees through emotions like a strategist studying the landscape. He knows that being merciful without boundaries is just betraying yourself. He doesn't react. He adjusts. He doesn't chase closure. He creates distance. He doesn't need to be understood cause he understands himself. And that's what separates the powerless from the powerful. The powerless explain. The powerful observe. The powerless seek approval. The powerful study reactions. The powerless hope. The powerful act. Weakness isn't not being strong. It's refusing to change. And the minute you stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen, you stop feeding the system that profits from your kindness. Take a breath. Let silence replace trying to justify yourself. Because the second you stop needing to be understood, you start to become dangerous. Third, let's talk about the shift to being ruthless. Nobody is born ruthless. You become ruthless the day the pain stops asking for permission to be felt. It happens quietly. One too many betrayals. One apology that didn't mean anything. One sleepless night where you finally realize that being good was never the goal. Being respected was. That's the moment your kindness starts to turn into awareness. You stop seeing the world through the lens of morality and start seeing it through the lens of consequence. You stop asking, "Why did they hurt me?" and start asking, "Why did I let them?" This is the shift. Machiavelli wrote about the change from being prey to being a player. He said a prince must learn how not to be good and use that knowledge when he needs to. That sentence isn't about glorifying cruelty. It's about showing how things really are. 'Cause in a world where power pretends to be virtue, the only sin is being naive. Being ruthless isn't about being heartless. It's about having a heart that doesn't negotiate its own value anymore. It's when your empathy becomes selective. Your words are carefully chosen. Your silence is strategic. And your absence is unforgettable. You start moving differently. You speak less. But everything you say has weight. You don't seek closure. You deliver consequences. You don't react to disrespect. You end it, not with anger, but with a calm detachment that scares people who like to manipulate others. 'Cause nothing scares the deceitful more than someone who doesn't bleed when they're cut. You start to see through people like glass. Their charm doesn't tempt you anymore. Their guilt doesn't trap you anymore. Their approval doesn't define you anymore. You've outgrown the emotional games they use to control people. This change doesn't come through meditation or forgiveness. It comes through fire, through loss, through the humiliation of realizing how many times you gave away your power to people who didn't deserve it. Machiavelli warned rulers about the same trap. He who allows himself to be deceived deserves to be deceived. You understand now that your suffering wasn't punishment. It was education. It taught you where your boundaries should have been. It showed you who benefits from your weakness. And most importantly, it revealed who you are when you have nothing left to lose. Ruthlessness is clarity after chaos. It's when you stop chasing fairness and start mastering control. You learn that silence isn't passive. It's about positioning yourself. That distance isn't about avoiding things. It's about being dominant. That indifference isn't about being numb. It's about having emotional control. This is where your kindness turns into strength. You stop being a victim of your feelings and become a strategist of energy. You don't need revenge anymore, 'cause nothing anyone does can touch the fortress you've built within yourself. That's what Machiavelli meant by power. Not controlling others, but controlling yourself. To be ruthless is to become impossible to control with emotion, untouchable by manipulation, and immune to chaos. When you get to this point, you don't announce it. You don't post about how peaceful you are. You carry it quietly, heavily, with purpose. People will sense it before you say anything. They'll look into your eyes and realize that the person who used to beg for understanding is gone. Take a breath. Let that sink in. This isn't the end of your empathy. It's the beginning of your authority. Fourth, the 8 laws of inner power. Machiavelli believed that every person has 2 selves. One that lives for approval and one that rules in silence. To wake up the ruler inside, you have to follow the 8 laws of inner power. Each law is a weapon made in pain, cooled in awareness. Law 1. Get away from ungrateful people. Your weakness wasn't your heart. It was who you gave it to. Ungrateful people drain you, not 'cause they're evil, but 'cause they have no bottom. Every time you try to rescue people who don't want to help themselves, you sink down with them. Machiavelli warned, men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceitful. Stop confusing loyalty with duty. Your energy isn't something to give away. It's valuable. Take it away from those who take advantage of your kindness. Let them feel your absence. Being detached is disciplined. Law 2. Turn pain into power. Pain isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. Powerless people drown in pain 'cause they want things to be fair. Powerful people study it. They ask, what is this teaching me about control? Machiavelli wrote, never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis. Every heartbreak is information. Every betrayal shows you where you're vulnerable. When you analyze instead of suffering, you become indestructible. Pain is information. Law 3. Stop explaining yourself. Understanding isn't something you're owed. It's something you earn. The more you explain, the more you give people to use against you. In dark psychology, showing your motives is like giving up your secrets. Power doesn't need to justify itself. It just is. He who wants to be obeyed has to know how to command. Let your silence create tension. Let people misunderstand you to protect your inner thoughts. Mystery gets respect. Silence is stronger than begging. Law 4. Detach. Don't beg. Attachment is just needing someone disguised as love. Begging for attention makes you worth less. When someone disrespects you, disappear. When they pull away, watch. Don't chase. Machiavelli taught, he who is not master of himself cannot be master of others. Detachment is the purest form of rebellion. It cuts off the manipulator's air supply. Your reaction? Choose peace over people. Law 5. Build boundaries like a fortress. A heart without protection is a target. Boundaries aren't walls. They're gates that keep chaos out. Every clear, no, you say becomes a wall against corruption. Forgiving without consequences just invites more of the same. He who lets himself be tricked deserves to be tricked. Protect your space like a fortress. Your clarity lives inside it. My boundaries protect my peace. That's the law. Law 6. Master the art of silence. Silence is being dominant disguised as being calm. Most people talk to prove they're worth something. Wise people stay quiet to see the truth. Never say everything you're thinking cause it makes you predictable. When you say nothing, others reveal everything. Silence creates tension. Tension creates respect. My silence controls chaos. Law 7. Never be completely loyal. Loyalty is only powerful when you choose who to give it to. Unconditional loyalty turns into needing someone. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man ought never to make himself depend wholly on one person." Give loyalty like a sword, sharp, careful, and you can pull it back. Keep your freedom sacred. Being predictable kills respect. Mystery keeps it alive. Loyalty is a strategy, not an emotion. Law 8. Become untouchable. This is the final stage. Untouchable doesn't mean you don't have emotions. It means you're complete. When no insult bothers you, no praise controls you. He who controls himself controls everything. You stop chasing approval. You go through tough times without flinching. You rule not by being dominant, but by being detached. That's being sovereign. That's the Machiavellian mind fully awake. Nothing can break me now. 8 laws, 8 awakenings. Each one burns away a version of you that was too easy to break. You don't need the world to fear you. You need the world to hesitate before messing with you, cause hesitation is respect. Take a breath. You've learned control, but now you have to learn reflection. Cause any power that's not kept in check can corrupt the person who has it. That's where the next change begins. 5th, pain, detachment, and silence. Pain is the first teacher that doesn't lie. It doesn't try to make you feel good. It doesn't try to bargain with you. It just shows you who you really are when you have nothing left to protect. Most people run from pain. They try to drown it out with noise, distractions, and pretending everything's okay. But the Machiavellian mind studies it. He treats pain like a teacher sent by fate, cause whatever hurts you still controls you. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man learns more from misfortune than from comfort." He wasn't saying it's good to suffer. He was explaining how you change. Comfort makes you blind. Pain makes you see clearly. When betrayal crushes you, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What lie just fell apart?" Cause every heartbreak gets rid of someone who is stopping you from growing. Every failure shows you a truth you were too proud to see. And every wound, once you understand it, becomes a weapon. Powerful people don't want things to be fair. They want an advantage. They don't waste time trying to prove they're innocent. They build a plan from the ashes. They use pain to sharpen their intuition until they can sense deceit before it even starts. That's what detachment really is. Not being cold, but being clear. When you detach, you stop needing closure. You stop begging for explanations. You let distance speak for you. Jung called this the process of individuation. The moment the soul pulls away from lies to find itself. Machiavelli called it survival. 2 different ways of saying the same thing. You can't master life until you can stand alone in silence. Silence at its best isn't just not talking. It's authority. It's that invisible feeling that makes others think twice about everything they say around you. When you learn to hold silence like a blade, you turn tension into control. Cause people are afraid of what they can't understand. Machiavelli warned, "Never reveal all your thoughts, for it makes you predictable." Being predictable is death in the game of power. The minute they can guess how you'll react, they own you. But when you stay silent, they start imagining their own fears onto you. And that confusion becomes your armor. In today's language, this is psychological dominance. The one who speaks the least controls the most. Cause in silence, people's imaginations run wild. And imagination is reality. So when life hurts you, when people misunderstand you, don't rush to defend yourself. Pull back, watch, let their noise show who they really are. Your stillness will be louder than any argument. Pain made you aware. Detachment made you disciplined. Silence became your sword. Together, they make up the trinity of control. Most people try to find peace by avoiding conflict. The wise find peace in the middle of the storm, cause they've learned that true calm isn't found in safety. It's built through fire. When you master this state, no rejection can humiliate you. No betrayal can stop you. No loss can break you, cause everything outside of you becomes information, not who you are. The Machiavellian doesn't run from chaos. He walks through it untouched. He doesn't shout that he's strong. He just is. And his silence scares the weak and commands the room. Take a breath. You've learned to suffer without breaking. Now it's time to look in the mirror of Machiavelli himself and see the reflection of the strategist you were meant to become. 6th, Machiavelli's mirror. You don't meet Machiavelli in a book. You meet him in the silence after betrayal. When the last lie falls apart and the truth starts to come out. That's when you realize that the person who destroyed you was your own refusal to change. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows the part of you that smiled while being used. The part that begged to be seen. The part that said, "It's okay," when it wasn't. That part is the real enemy. Not the world, not the betrayer, but the kindness that wouldn't defend itself. Machiavelli once said, "Men should be either treated generously or destroyed, for they take revenge for small injuries, but cannot do so for great ones." He wasn't talking about violence. He was describing strategy. Never do things halfway with people. Never half forgive, half trust, or half detach. Power needs precision. When you look into Machiavelli's mirror, you won't see evil. You'll see clarity. A version of yourself without excuses. Free from guilt. Ready to act with logic where emotion used to rule. This reflection isn't cruel. It's complete. It understands that being merciful without remembering invites more of the same. That empathy without boundaries breeds parasites. And that peace without power is a lie made for those who obey. Jung called this integrating the shadow. When you stop denying your darker instincts and start using them consciously, cause your darkness isn't meant to be destroyed. It's meant to be directed. Inside every calm man lives a strategist. And inside every strategist, a silent storm. To deny either one is to weaken both. You have to learn to wear the shadow like armor. Not like shame. The mirror asks you one question. Are you kind? Or are you controlled by your kindness? 'Cause the answer decides your destiny. The world praises being gentle, but it only respects control. Anyone can forgive, few can decide who deserves it. That's where Machiavelli's wisdom lives, in the space between what you intend and what actually happens. To live without a plan is like walking blindfolded through a battlefield. You might survive for a while, but not 'cause you chose to, but by chance. So, you have to choose. Stay innocent and keep getting hurt, or change and see the world as it really is. Being ruthless when it comes from awareness is being merciful to yourself. It's saying, "I won't destroy myself anymore to prove I'm good." It's understanding that peace doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being unshakable. The mirror doesn't offer comfort. It offers control. 'Cause when you face your reflection and stop lying to it, you stop being breakable. You see through manipulation before it even starts. You feel energy before words. And you walk with the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to tell everyone how great they are. That's what Machiavelli meant by power, not to control others, but to never be controlled by lies again. Take a breath. You've faced your reflection. You've seen the strategist under the servant. Now it's time to step fully into the light of darkness where enlightenment no longer glows white but burns black. 7th, the dark enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't light. It's the ability to walk through darkness and not lose yourself. Most people look for peace and comfort. They think peace means safety, stillness, and being told they're right. But real peace comes from mastery. The kind of calm that stands in the middle of a storm and whispers, "I am not moved." This is the dark enlightenment. The moment you stop praying for a lighter world and start making yourself a stronger mind. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name. He wrote, "Fortune is a woman. To be mastered, she must be struck and forced." He wasn't talking about being cruel. He was describing being in control of your own fate, 'cause life doesn't reward the gentle. It tests them until they change. Jung called it the union of opposites. Nietzsche called it the birth of the Übermensch, the man beyond man. Machiavelli called it the prince who rules himself before ruling others. Different names, same truth. Power isn't given. It's made. You see, light without darkness is blindness. And goodness without power is slavery. The world doesn't need more pure hearts. It needs disciplined ones. People who can feel everything but obey nothing except their own higher logic. That's the secret of dark enlightenment. To hold compassion in one hand and calculation in the other and know exactly when to use each. You'll be misunderstood for this. They'll call you cold. They'll call you heartless. But that's only 'cause they measure warmth by weakness. They think kindness has to be unconditional. They think forgiveness has to be endless. They haven't learned yet that mercy has a price and that giving it away too freely destroys its value. To be enlightened in the dark way is to stop chasing purity and start sharpening your focus on precision. It's crucial to understand that control isn't about suppressing urges or emotions, it's about making informed selections. You get to decide what truly warrants your energy, what deserves a reaction from you, and what's simply not worth acknowledging at all. The ultimate expression of morality lies in self-mastery. The person who has command over themselves dictates the atmosphere of any room they enter. They don't have to shout or raise their voice to be heard. Their very presence commands respect. Their silence alone can shape outcomes. Because once you've gained a deep understanding of human nature, with all its greed, anxieties, and predictable patterns, you stop feeling resentment towards it. Instead, you learn to navigate it. You anticipate potential betrayal. You expect deception to surface. And in doing so, you rise above it all. That's true enlightenment. It's clarity that emerges from the shadows. Born from chaos itself, you evolve into something the world can't manipulate, emotions can't control, and time can't diminish. Machiavelli famously said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But a more relevant interpretation of that sentiment for today is this: strive to be respected for your self-control, rather than liked for your constant accessibility. When you achieve this state, you no longer feel the need to constantly prove your inherent goodness. Your inner strength becomes your most compelling virtue. Your tranquility radiates as a powerful presence, and your detachment transforms into something almost divine. The inner peace you've been searching for was always within you. It was simply buried beneath the ashes of your former self, the self that mistakenly believed vulnerability equaled safety. Now you realize that the goal isn't just to be a source of light. The real goal is to burn with such unwavering intensity that no darkness can ever hope to extinguish you. Take a deep breath. You've achieved an extremely rare state of mind, calm, collected, and crystal clear. This is the domain of the untouchable, and you're about to learn how to reign over it. Number 8. The untouchable mind. When external factors cease to affect you, you've attained the highest level of power. This isn't arrogance, it's true sovereignty. The mind that governs itself is capable of governing the world. As Machiavelli wrote, "He who is wise will be master of himself. For he who is mastered by others is never free." The untouchable mind feels no need for revenge. It doesn't crave constant validation from others. It doesn't waste time justifying itself. Instead, it observes, calculates, and waits patiently, taking action only when it consciously chooses to, not when it's provoked to react. To become untouchable, you must actively suppress your addiction to immediate reaction. Because every reaction is an act of surrendering control. Every time someone manages to trigger you, they effectively hold you captive. Each time you argue in an attempt to be understood, you're lowering your standards to engage with their chaos. The untouchable individual doesn't frantically chase after desired outcomes. They strategically shape probabilities to their advantage. They don't desperately seek attention. They naturally attract it through their inherent presence, a presence that can't be faked. It's not just about the words they use, it's about the quiet strength that lies beneath them. People sense it the moment they walk into a room. That quiet confidence, that unspoken authority. It's the energy of someone who has confronted every form of loss imaginable and learned to retain their inner peace throughout it all. You don't elevate yourself above the world by overpowering others. You achieve true transcendence by mastering the self that once relied on their approval. The untouchable mind isn't devoid of emotion. It experiences feelings deeply, but it refuses to be controlled by them. It calmly observes every wave without being swept away. It allows storms to pass without losing its sense of direction. It holds pain in one hand and peace in the other, using both as tools for acquiring wisdom. When you reach this point, you come to the realization that the game is over. Not because you've necessarily won, but because you no longer feel the need to participate. This is what every manipulator fears most. A mind that can't be baited. A soul that can't be manipulated through guilt. And a presence that defies control. Take another breath. You've arrived. This is the Machiavellian state of being, calm, deliberate, untouchable. You've endured pain. You've shed illusions. And you've burned away your weaknesses to construct the only fortress that truly matters, the one within yourself. You no longer seek validation or peace from external sources. You generate it from within. You no longer plead for understanding, you embody it. You no longer chase after power, you are power itself, disciplined, silent, and complete. Machiavelli once wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." Today, you've chosen wisdom, you've chosen control, you've embraced ruthlessness in its purest form, awareness. Because true power doesn't need to shout, prove itself, or ask for permission. It simply exists. The world that once frightened you will still test you. People will inevitably betray, provoke, and misunderstand you, but they will no longer be able to touch you. Because your self-worth no longer depends on their limited perceptions. Your peace is no longer borrowed from others. Your energy is no longer available to those who are ungrateful. You've become what every manipulator dreads. A mind that refuses to be moved. A soul that can't be owned. And a presence that commands respect without uttering a word. Now, repeat these truths to yourself. My kindness has its limits. My silence speaks volumes. My detachment safeguards my inner peace. My discipline defines who I am. I am untouchable now. If you've come this far, you are no longer the version of yourself that bends and breaks. You are the version that reigns. Share this message and remind others of what the world has forgotten. True power begins the moment you stop asking for it.